Alrighty, another Wednesday, another episode of Bet the Beach Live. Thank you for hanging out tonight. I'm in a great mood tonight. A lot going on. Celtics are up a few points right now, trying to close out my Cleveland Cavaliers. So we're excited about that. We are on the eve of AVP Huntington. The qualifiers starting tomorrow morning. That's always got to get you in a good mood. The first AVP Tour event of the year. The AVP season is upon us, so that's exciting. And I got the volleyball court outside, almost all set up. Got 2 of the 4 lights hooked up tonight, working properly. Got to do the next light post. I really wanted to get out there tonight. We're going to be switching the studio and getting out in the sand for the rest of the summer, but kind of crummy weather out there today, so I figured let's give it one more week, and next week when you join me, we'll be out in the sand for another fun episode of Bet the Beach Live. A lot of good stuff to get to tonight. We have a NORCECA Continental Tour final we want to recap. We have Espinho, Portugal, and Elite 16 to preview. We'll talk a little Sandcast, get you a clip from Evan Corey on with Travis Merwitter and Savvy Simo on the Sandcast podcast today. And as always, we will take a look at the next event, and the next event is AVP Huntington, so that'll be the main story of the night tonight. But let's start in the Dominican Republic. It is the NORCECA Continental Tour Finals, and on the women's side, won by the Americans, the youngsters, surprising everybody. Well, surprising me. I don't want to speak for anybody else. The United States duo, Molly Shaw and Chloe Laureen. I wrote their names down to make sure that I gave them the credit they deserve. They end up beating Canadian Olympian Sarah Pavin and her young partner Molly McBain in the finals. They will take gold at the NORCECA Continental Tour Final and get the points that go along with it. Would have been a great victory for Pav and Molly, who are right on the cutting edge of Olympic qualification as far as points goes, according to my source for many things technical when it comes to beach volleyball, Travis on Sandcast. Your points on this NORCECA Continental Tour Final, roughly equivalent to that of a challenge event. So it would have been huge for Sarah and Molly to get that gold. They did get a silver, so that's still good points for them. And I'll show you the podium picture in a while. I want you to pay attention to the look on Sarah's face. Doesn't look too happy with the second they took. Mexico and the Dominican Republic faced off in that bronze medal match, and it was the Mexican duo of Gutierrez and Torres taking the bronze in that NORCECA just a few days ago. And a good tournament, an exciting tournament. I still quite haven't figured out how to get the NORCECA events, how to stream them. I'm not sure if they do or what to expect, but the USA duo, as I said, Molly Shaw and Chloe Laureen, who are on the entry list, going to be in the qualifiers starting tomorrow morning at AVP Huntington, putting on a great performance, beating Pav and Molly 21-14, 21-14 in straight sets to take a gold home to the United States on the women's side. There's Molly with the dig, doing what she does best, and Molly and Sarah taking that silver medal. On the men's side, Miles Evans, Chase Budinger. We've talked about this a lot because this is huge for that qualification race on the Olympic side for the men's in the United States in that second spot in that battle with Trevor Crabb and Theo Brunner. Miles and Chase looking for those big entry points. Now, when I went into yesterday morning, I see them facing off against that Cuban team of Diaz and Aleo, and I'm thinking, boy, that's a tough draw for them, because if you look on the other side of the bracket, you got Mexico and Canada, and I think those are both teams that Chase and Miles have a good chance against. And that Cuban team, I wasn't so sure. That Cuban team's been playing really, really, really well right now. They went back-to-back silvers in Brazil in challenge events just about a month ago here in April. And playing excellent volleyball right now is that Cuban team, so I'm thinking tough draw for Miles and Chase. Well, they performed very well. They dusted Cuba in that semifinal match, went on to take the Canadians, Sam Schachter and Darren Deering, in that finals for that NORCECA Continental Tour. Chase Budinger with the cross, Miles Evans with the dig. Of course, all these pictures courtesy of Norceca_info on Instagram. Want to give them credit. Sam Schachter and Dan Deering played an excellent couple of days as well, as it seems. But they did drop in this finals to Chase and Miles, 21-18, 21-19. And the United States sweeps the podium. All golds coming home for USA as Chase and Miles earn their gold and those big, big, big points in a very, very important Olympic qualification. And if you look there, all the way on the left side of your screen, you got Sarah Pavin and Molly McBain. I think Sarah's the only one in this photograph without a smile on. So maybe not so happy with the silver they took. A very important final match there that they did end up dropping. So Sarah, very competitive, as we know, and a tough loss for them. And it's a big one on the men's side specifically for Chase and Miles, as they do take the lead now in the Olympic qualification race with 3 events to go. And Espinho knocking on the door in Portugal, the Elite 16 starting next Thursday. Let's take a look at the entry list for Espinho while we're on that topic. An Elite 16, so you can get the best teams in the world playing in this one. The Swedes, David Amann, Jonathan Helvig, are your number 1 seed. Peruzic and Schweiner, 2. Bormans and De Groot are your 3 seed. Based on recent performance, they've really bumped their way up into a 3 seed in Elite 16. And as we've talked about ad nauseum here, I think they are rapidly becoming the best team from that Netherlands Federation, so a well-deserved 3 seed for them. Brazil takes the 4th and the 5th spot. Evandro and Arthur, of course, everybody knows, if you've been following along, how much I'm a fan of the way that they play. They're in that 5 spot. They are coming off of a big victory in that most recent event in Brasilia, a gold for Evandro and Arthur, coming kind of an underdog spot for them and taking gold, so a big one for them. Germany in the 6th spot, Nicolai and Kadofava in the 2nd spot. Van de Velde and Emmers, the second team from that Netherlands Federation, are your 8 seeds. Miles Partain, Andy Benish, still main draw, even despite kind of a tough start to the 2024 season for Miles and Andy. They're the 9 seeds. Qatar's Sharif and Ahmed, and Poland's Brill and Loziak before your wild card main draw for a very good Portugal team there, Ian Pedroso and Campos in their home country. On the women's side, what you'd expect. The one note I would say on the women's side here is that you do have the Australians, Maria Fay and Clancy, Taliqua Clancy, back in an Elite 16. We haven't seen them in about a month and a half, so very, very good to see them back out in the sand. Only a couple events left before the Olympics at this point, and there were some questions, at least in my mind, about the health of Maria Fay and Clancy. When I put my odds to win the Olympics months and months ago, I had them very, very high. They've since dropped because they haven't been playing. I think I will get those updated here. We do have about a month between the qualification window closing and the Olympics starting. It might even be about 6 weeks. So we're going to have an opportunity there to refresh our Olympic odds to wins once we know what the pool looks like, and we can compare them to what I had a few months ago. But Sarah and Kelly there in your 2 spot. TK and in your 5 spots. They're going to be at Huntington Beach this weekend and getting on a plane and headed out to Portugal next weekend to go participate in the second to last Elite 16 of the Olympic qualification. On to the qualifiers on the men's side. That Germany team playing very good volleyball right now. Then you got Spain, the 3rd Netherlands team, and then Chase and Miles and Trevor and Theo are your 4 and 5 spot in the qualifier. So both of them having to come out of the qualifiers here in Espinho in order to make the main draw. So what that means is come next Wednesday, Thursday, those are going to be very big days for this Olympic qualification race. Nothing is going to be settled before we get to Ostrava the weekend of June 7th through 9th. However, if one of these 2 teams doesn't qualify and the other one does to a main draw here, second to last Elite 16, that would be a very, very big shot in this Olympic race. And where Miles Evans and Chase Budinger have just taken that lead, if it's them that are able to qualify, get into that main draw, and Trevor and Theo that aren't, even more so, that's an important result there. So qualifiers for Espino here coming up in about 8 days. They're going to be very important. 7 days, probably next Wednesday, we're going to see the qualification. I don't think really any other surprises on this list. Alex Rangieri and Adrian Karambula, they've taken a few events off. Adrian Karambula on Instagram has been kind of updating you in the progress of his rehab and recovery. I think there was a little bit of an injury there. Mr. Skyball, one of my favorites, really hoping we can see him get out there and be healthy come the Olympics. Fun player to watch. You guys see that Skyball in Paris, so I'm excited to see them back on an entry list here for an Elite 16. And finally, for Espino, on the women's side, your women's qualification, you have Therese Cannon and Megan Kraft back in a Elite 16 qualifier. They're your 3 seed. That's a great place for them to be. Good opportunity for them to steal some pretty big qualification FIVB points. Esme and Zoe are now in the qualifiers for Switzerland, as are Anouk Verger-Dupree and Joanna Mader. They're your 8th seed on the Switzerland side in that race on the Swiss side for the second spot from that federation. Same thing could be said for Germany. Illinger and Borger and Laura Ludwig and Louisa Lippmann are your 2 seed and your 5 seed respectively on that German side in that German women's race for that second Olympic qualification spot. And then your last team in qualifying for the qualifiers in Espino are Kimberly Hildreth and Tegan Van Gunst. So we have, 4 women's teams in an Elite 16 main draw and qualifiers out in Espino coming up next weekend. So that's it for Espino. We will have an opportunity to talk a little more Espino next Wednesday before the qualifiers finish, I guess, before the main draw starts on Thursday. So we'll get you your bet slip for odds to win and odds to podium for Espino coming up next week on the program. Coming up now is a on the mic segment, and I lean pretty heavily on Sandcast podcast because they're the one of the few outlets that's producing weekly beach volleyball content. So shout out to those guys. Follow them on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. They do an awesome job over there. Evan Corey on the podcast today. Evan Corey playing domestically this season with the legend Alisson from Brazil, and had a chance to sit down and talk to Travis and Savissimo about partnering with a legend from Brazil.
Being able to pick up a storied person in the history of beach volleyball is always really cool if you have the opportunity to. And, for a lot of people, if they had a choice.
So who are you playing with?
I was going to get to it.
Oh, there you go. Sorry, I interrupted your storytelling.
He's building it up.
Yeah, build up.
They have their choice. You get like your fills and your carches in the U.S., but like as far as if you look at Brazilian volleyball, the carch and fill of Brazil, I think would have to be Ricardo, Emmanuel, and Alisson. And I think that's pretty hard to decipher between those 3, just because of how storied they all are. So getting to play with Alisson is going to be super, super exciting for me because, one, I don't think I've ever had a partner of that caliber as far as like being experienced, having those types of accolades, being proven on the biggest stages. So that's exciting. And then 2, just playing with arguably the best blocker of all time. Like he's got to be top 3. You've obviously got him.
Good stuff there on the Sandcast podcast this week. Evan Corey partnering up with the legend Alisson. We saw him on the AVP tour last year. I saw him on Instagram earlier today talking about the new challenge of him playing domestically in America. And one of the really interesting things that I'd like to know more about and that I will do some more research about for you guys, the fans, to help educate you as I'm educating myself about the inner workings of these domestic beach volleyball leagues, is that Evan Corey, after Huntington Beach, before, Manhattan and Chicago, is going to go with Alisson to Brazil to play in the Brazilian tour. So where the AVP typically doesn't let international players play without a green card or some sort of kind of murky rules about international players playing on the domestic tour. I'm not sure how or what the rules are on the Brazilian tour, but very cool to hear that Evan's going to get to go and play in Brazil on that Brazilian tour with Alisson. And I think that'll really generate some pretty interesting stories, and it'll be a really good opportunity for a very good young beach volleyball player. On the men's side, Evan playing with Logan Weber a couple of years ago, playing with Troy Field a little bit halfway through last season, and finding a partner that at least he can play with domestically, playing with a Wyatt Harrison most recently internationally on the International Beach Pro Tour. So good stuff on Sandcast as always. I urge you, as I always do, to go and check that out. Well, the main story tonight, as you might expect it to be, is AVP Huntington. AVP Huntington is the first event of the season. And let's first take a look at what's at stake here. So the 2024 AVP Heritage Series, we went over this last week, so I'll go through it very quickly. 3 events. They're the 3 main events. Huntington replacing Atlanta. Heritage Series used to be called the Gold Series. Now they're calling it Heritage Series. The winning teams of any of these events get an automatic bid into the new AVP League that we've talked a lot about. Teams earn points based on their final standing, and the best 2 out of 3 results are tallied to rank teams and to get them into the qualification for the league. So, for example, say 3 different teams on the men's side win the 3 Heritage Series events, you get 5 spots left. So then after that, it's the next 5 best teams with points tallied from the 2 of the best 3 results. As we talked about, Trevor Crabb and Theo Brunner out, Miles Evans and Chase Budinger out, Miles Partain and Andy Benish out. They're all going to Portugal here in a couple of days. They're going to use this weekend to rest. Of course, Chase and Miles just getting back from the Dominican probably today. The last thing I'll say there, as I said last week, just a quick recap on this, is that the AVP holds 2 wild cards. So if one of the teams that they want to be in there, either an Olympic team or a team with an Olympic pedigree, like the A team, Alex and April, if they don't qualify via one of those 2 ways, they'll get a wild card and they'll just bump one of the bottom team that would qualify out of there. So that is what's at stake here coming up at AVP Huntington over the course of the next few days. Let's go odds to win now on the Huntington Beach Open qualifier starting tomorrow morning. On the women's side, I get Kelly and Sarah as your favorites at plus 300. That's a really tough one because between them and TKN, I mean, it's really, really kind of a toss-up as to who, you see one tournament, one team gets further, the next tournament, the next team gets further. Just a couple of days ago in Brasilia, TKN make it to the finals. Kelly and Sarah do not. So I think the 2 of them are very close, 300, 400. I think, really that's almost a toss-up between those 2 teams. Very, very good odds to win for both of them. I think Mel and Brandy then are your next one, and I don't think they're that far behind. A year ago in the spot, as we were looking at the first tournament of the year, probably Hermosa, I think, in the 2023 season. I think Mel and Brandy, I would have had them a little further off. I guess actually Miami was the first last season, one that Mel and Brandy did win. And I don't think Kelly and Sarah or TKN played in that one, so take that for what it's worth. But I think Mel and Brandy have really closed the gap between themselves and Kelly and Sarah and TKN. I think they are definitively a top 7 team in the world right now. Just incredible that leave the defending Olympic gold medalists Alex Kleiman and April Ross out of it. Lead them out of the conversation. You have 3 of the top 6 or 7 best teams in the world here playing domestically this coming weekend at Huntington Beach. And it just goes to show you the strength of the women's side of our domestic beach volleyball program. And it's really an awesome thing. It's just incredible to see that, as I said, you got 3 of the top 6 or 7 teams in the world, and that's not including Alex Kleiman and April Ross, who I have, a couple points below there, below Mel and Brandy. I have them plus 800 to win. And we're going to see a lot. They've taken almost 2 years off now at this point. I think they have taken 2 years off, 2022, 2023. Both of them had their first child. Alex Kleiman did play a little bit internationally. Got a wild card into the Beach World Champs last year with Haley Harward. With limited success between the two of them. And April Ross, we have not seen her play in an event in over 2 years. So it'll be interesting to see how, the time off affects them, if they have a little trouble getting, back into the groove. And also, the other thing, too, is even if they are, close to what they were 2 years ago when we saw them last, the other teams around them have gotten better, so it'll be interesting to see these teams that they were dominating, 2 years ago when they left the tour, where they're going to, stand up against, those top 3 teams I have above them in the rankings. After that, Betsy Flint and Julia Scholes playing excellent volleyball. The last time we saw them, they took some time off. Julia got some work done on her knee, and I'm really interested to see them. The last time we saw them was MBO in 2023. And, of course, the MBO that Betsy and Julia won, Betsy's first MBO. She deserves to be on the pier. Now she is. Megan Kraft and Therese Cannon, they're going to be in Espino next weekend. They're in Huntington Beach this weekend. And then I got Haley Harward and Kylie DeBerg there at plus 1,500. Savvy Semo, Abby Van Winkle. Coming out of the qualifiers, we'll take a look at the main draw list here in a minute. I have them high for a qualifier team, but I think they're probably your best bet to win after those top 7, as I just said there. Gina Urango, Tonya Rodriguez, new partnership there. Megan Kraft and Lexi Denneberg, plus 3,000. Zana Muno, Emily Day Capers, plus 3,000. And then Newberry and Whitmarsh, the youngsters, first year on the tour last season. I wanted to sprinkle in a potential long shot there, plus 5,000 to win the whole thing. On the men's side, Taylor and Taylor are my pick to win the whole thing, and I don't think it's particularly close, although I will say Triborn and Came Shock could just as easily beat Taylor and Taylor on any given day. So it's those 2 teams, and I think everybody else, Phil and Avery, are your third best odds to win at plus 500. They played some excellent volleyball last season. I think Phil took 2 fourths. The first of the season was with Troy Field, I want to say. That was in Miami. And then he did take a 4th in Chicago with Avery DeRost. That was their best result as a partnership. Playing good volleyball there, so I think plus 500 is a good spot for them, although I think Cody Caldwell and Sean Cook might have something to say about that, being the 3rd or the 4th best team on this list. Big drop there from 500 to 800. Now that I see that, I think I might like to take Cody Caldwell and Sean Cook at plus 800. I think that might be some good value there to win the whole thing. Where are they to be top 4? Cody Caldwell and Sean Cook minus 200. And, well, there you go. That's why. I think that's I hate to take a minus 200 bet and just, bet 10 to win 5. But I think Cody Caldwell and Sean Cook would be a good pick to win that. And I think they did win the last, we were calling them Pro Series at the time, the last Pro Series event of the year last year, if I'm not mistaken. Logan Smith, Hagen Smith and Logan Weber at plus 100, even odds with Cody Caldwell and Sean Cook. We just talked about them. Evan Corey and Alisson plus 1,000. Tim Brewster, Kyle Friend plus 1,200. And we go down from there. My guys that follow me, follow my socials, I always got to shout them out. Chase Frischman there at plus 2,500 and Jake Uratia at plus 3,000. Keep an eye on those guys. I think Klinsky and Frischman are coming to the qualies, but I believe David Lee and Jake Uratia snuck into that main draw. I think they're the last seed in the main draw. We'll see that in a minute. Anyways, trying to get you some top 4 odds there too. If you want to get some value there to finish top 4, give me Haley Harward and Kylie DeBerg at plus 200, or same odds, Savvy Semo and Abby Van Winkle at plus 200 to take top 4 at Huntington Beach. I think some good odds to win there. And I showed it last week. I'll just show it once more very quickly. The league odds to qualify, locking out the top 3 teams there. Teams on the men's side you're not even going to see this weekend at Huntington Beach. But as you work your way down there, some of the teams that we talked about. And already I got to change that because it does look like Quiggle and Schermerhorn are not going to be playing this year due to an injury. I just saw that on Instagram. So I just wanted to get you a little preview of that. Let's move on to the main draw for AVP Huntington. Take a look at the main draw list. We'll start on the women's side. Cloth and Nuss are your 1 seeds. The A-team are your 2 seeds. Got those. I guess they're not freeze points because it's only been 2 years, but basically freeze points. Haven't used them in over 2 years. Sarah Hughes and Kelly Chang are your 3. Brandy and Mel are your 4. Betsy and Julia are your 5. And we go down from there. We basically just talked about this list just a few minutes ago, so no surprises on any of those teams there. Okay, on the men's side, same thing. I don't think there's anything really special here. The out-of-system guys, the Basie brothers, sneaking into the main draw there. Surprising that those guys are able to sneak into that main draw, and you have some guys coming out of the qualifiers that I'm surprised that those guys had the points to qualify for a main draw, but good. Entertaining guys doing a lot in that social media platform. Go give them a follow. The out-of-system guys on probably on TikTok, on Instagram as well there. Moving along into the qualifiers. What we have here, I just really quickly just wanted to shout out a couple of teams I think that have a good chance to come out of this 32-team qualifier tomorrow. Got to win 3 games tomorrow to get the privilege to move on to into that 16-team main draw starting on Friday. As I said, Savvy-Simo and Abby Van Winkle, I think, really good odds to come out of this qualifier tomorrow. Carly Kahn, Madeline Anderson. Carly Kahn getting her her first AVP win in Central Florida 2 years ago. Very good player there out of Hawaii. Lorene and Shaw coming off that Dominican Republic Continental Tour Finals. They're your 4th seed in the qualies. Newberry and Whitmarsh, we talked about them at plus 5,000 odds to win this whole thing. They are your 5 seed. Moving on down, Brooke Sweat and Kennedy Coakley in here. The Norse sisters coming off that big USC Beach Volleyball Championship 2 weeks ago. They're down there in the qualifiers as well on the women's side. On the men's side, you got Jake Dittrich and Celia Tucker as your 1 seed in the qualies. I think I saw Tucker comment on Instagram earlier today about how he didn't know where people were hiding all their points, keeping them in the freezer. He was a little surprised that he was coming out of the qualifier in this one, but he's starting tomorrow morning, 11 a.m. local time on the Pacific Coast. Bill Klinsky and Chase Frischman also surprised that they are coming out of the qualies, but they are. Lev Prima and Dylan Marek. Sorry if I got your last name wrong there. Dylan, they are your 5 seed coming out of the qualies. Wyatt Harrison, Evan Corey's international partner down there as well. Another guy further down the list, Zephyr Dew, a guy that I've heard Triborn talk really highly about, so another guy to keep your eye on as well this year. All right, now we get into what is, I think, going to be my main story of the night. So let's talk a little bit about an announcement that came down yesterday from the AVP. Now, I may be a beach volleyball superfan. Hand up. Yep, superfan. So I may occasionally, and by occasionally I mean consistently and regularly and, each and every day, spend time digging through the comments on AVP's posts, prominent people's posts to see what the people are thinking about the AVP and its production status and, where it's going to be broadcasting and what's going on. Just trying to get the feel of the people, feel of the beach volleyball hardcore fans. So as of 2 days ago, the AVP had yet to announce where they're going to be broadcasting AVP Huntington, which is starting tomorrow morning. And then I saw in a comment on one of the AVP posts, somebody had mentioned AVP just put up links to on YouTube to Stadium Court, Court 1, and Court 2 Friday starting at noon. So I went to YouTube and I confirmed, yep, you got 3 links there. Clearly, Stadium Court, Court 1, Court 2. No question, AVP is going to be streaming on YouTube, at least for Huntington Beach. So I popped a reel out there on Instagram, just showing, screen capture the phone, showing, how I scrolled through it, how I found it. Excited about it. Pumped that they're on YouTube. Very pumped, personally. I'm excited that they're on YouTube because YouTube, in my mind, is the most accessible, most used video content sharing platform in the world for long-form horizontal content. You're talking vertical stuff, you can get to Instagram, you can do all that kind of thing. But when you're talking about long form or medium to long form content, horizontal aspect ratio, how are you going to reach the most people? In my mind, it's YouTube. So I was excited to see that they're going to be on YouTube. Of course, AVP didn't then announce that they were going to be on YouTube for a couple hours after I saw it in the comments and I got my reel out there. So I may have beat them to it by about an hour and a half yesterday afternoon. No big deal. follow Bet the Beach on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. You get breaking news like that once in a while. Anyways, so speaking of the aforementioned Twitter, I got home last night from wherever I was, dinner with the parents, and I see that an individual, a freelance journalist and volleyball coach, contributor to volleyballmag.com from Chicago, had commented about the AVP's announcement. He had gotten the same email that many of us that are on the AVP's mailing list have gotten, which if you ever wanted to see the bracket on avp.com, you had to put your email address in, so we're all getting these same emails, right? From Larry Hamill, LP Hamill on Twitter, X, yesterday afternoon, and I'll quote him directly, received an email from the AVP Tour that included the news that its season-opening Huntington Beach tournament would be streamed on its YouTube channel. No TV deal, apparently, for the struggling AVP during an Olympic year. Yikes! Exclamation point. Then, a few minutes later, Larry comments on his own tweet. Apparently, not enough room to be snarky in that first tweet. Had to continue. In 2023, the AVP's Gold and Pro Series stops got national exposure on streaming ESPN Plus or one of ESPN's linear cable channels. Streaming on the YouTube channel pretty much assures the AVP sponsors that casual viewers won't see their ads. All right. So I saw that last night and I said, okay. Personally, I disagree. However, there's all sorts of opinions to be had about distribution platforms, and there's a lot of things that we don't know. So, for example, when the AVP signed its deal with Amazon several years ago, I think that was 2021, 2020, 2021, maybe somewhere in there. The question is, how much is Amazon paying for your production? Are they fronting the entire bill for the production? Is it their production crew? Is it the AVP that contracts out a production crew and then Amazon splits the cost with them? What's that share? That's information that I personally don't have. I reached out to several people at the AVP. I'm not going to name names, but trying to get some more clarification on what that deal might look like. Their business, not mine. No fault to them for not wanting to share that. But it's part of the conversation, right? So it's information that, I'd love to have in order to make a more educated point. So the question is, when you sign a deal like that, what's that share on your production deal? Because that production is not inexpensive. The AVP does an awesome job with the production. They got excellent commentators. They got multiple camera angles in stadium court. They got all kinds of stuff. It's beautiful production. Love it. We all love it. Then the AVP moved to YouTube, I believe, in 2022. And I guess if you want to make it an age thing, the younger demographics, it seemed to be very popular among the younger demographics. And I'll show you that here in a minute. People very excited about this announcement. They're back on YouTube. And then in 2023, Bally's, the ownership has now taken full effect. And the AVP announces that they're going to have courts 1 and 2 on Bally Live, and they're going to have Stadium Court on ESPN Plus. So if you've been following along on Bet the Beach since last year, my instant reaction was, this is a bad idea. And now that I'm looking back at it in retrospect, because sometimes you have those opinions and you think, that I wasn't wrong, or I wasn't right, or I flew off the handle there a little bit, or didn't have the information, or, didn't have hindsight, the benefit of hindsight. Well, my issue with it at the time was that Bally Live was an app that you could only get on an iPhone. It took a while for them to spin it up on Google Play, sorry. Later I find out that Canadian fans can't get it, and the AVP has to scramble and get TSN to carry their content. They did give you Court 2, which we didn't have before. So that was something I had been screaming for years. You have this great product. Let's get all the courts televised. So that was good. That was a big step, I thought. But Bally's Live was an abomination. You couldn't even cast it to your television. It wasn't on any smart televisions. So I'm just there watching Courts 1 and Court 2 on my little phone. Fine. You could screen mirror, but that gets wonky. Technology gets better every, 6 months, 2 months, every day. But everybody's saying, oh, they're on ESPN, the 4-letter network. Done. Big deal. Huge. It's going to get all kinds of viewers. And I'm thinking, ESPN Plus? I guess, you know, I have a subscription, so fine. I can get Stadium Court on ESPN Plus, no problem. And then, it's not like you'd put on ESPN Plus and you're just clicking through the channels and, oh, there's the AVP Perfect. No, you had to literally search beach volleyball or AVP in order to find the product on ESPN Plus. It's buried through, hundreds of Big Ten baseball games. No judgment. Just there's a lot of content on ESPN Plus, and AVP was buried in it. Fine, no big deal. It was a way to get our product, whatever. So that was fine, all good. I got ESPN Plus, and here's the thing: I don't mind paying for a product that I love, and we all, I think, as beach volleyball fans, want the AVP to be successful, and I think that part of that is us investing in the sport that we love. So this isn't a matter of being behind a paywall. That's not the gripe here. One thing I will say is, well, you know what? Tell you what. All these thoughts are going through my mind, and I think, you know what? Let's have a conversation here, Larry. Let's give you my side of the argument. So my response to Larry last night was, quote, last year the AVP alienated its core by putting its product behind two different paywalls, ESPN Plus and ESPN2, and a free platform, Bally Live, that nobody had. Getting the product in front of the casual fan at the expense of the core fans was never the right move. YouTube is a win. And the two different paywalls was specifically Manhattan Beach Open, Sunday afternoon. ESPN Plus carried the entire day's events, and then we got to the finals. I think Taylor and Taylor were in the finals against, I forget who they faced off against in NBO in the finals last year. But I'm ready to go. Here we go, and ESPN Plus drops out. So what happened here? Where is it? Look it up. They've moved it to ESPN2. I'm a cord cutter. A lot of you are cord cutters. Don't have cable anymore. Don't have ESPN2. So what do I have to do? I have to resubscribe to YouTube TV at $70 a month in order to watch Taylor and Taylor play in the Manhattan Beach Open finals. So for that day, I had to have Bally Live on my phone, I had to have ESPN Plus, and I had to pay for ESPN2. So you're behind two different paywalls on three different apps, one of which, kind of an abomination, Bally Live, I'm sorry, janky at best. So you're not making your product accessible for either the casual fans or the core fans. That's my opinion. Larry's response, a few seconds later, minutes later, quote, simply cannot agree. The AVP is on death legs because all it has is a minuscule, dwindling, diehard base that didn't care enough about the product to pay for ESPN Plus, the platform on which the majority of the action was shown. YouTube is a huge loss. I say it's a win. He says it's a huge loss. He says the AVP is on death legs. And he does make the comment, which is fair. The majority of the action was on ESPN Plus as far as Stadium Court was. That ESPN2 thing was specific to some finals, Manhattan Beach, and I think Chicago too. So Larry's not very happy with me, I don't think. So at this point, I'm thinking maybe I don't get involved in a Twitter battle. Maybe I just let this one die. Larry certainly seems to have very strong opinions about, getting the AVP to have a good old-fashioned, Mad Max era AMC television cable deal. So I don't say anything, and Larry follows that one up. The AVP has to front production costs for the YouTube shows and yet can realize little revenue from it because the viewership is low and the sponsors' ads are seen by precious few unique viewers. So he makes a good point there. Who's paying for your YouTube or your production costs? When you're on YouTube, you're paying for your production costs. Who's paying for Bet the Beach to be on YouTube right now? I guess me. I'm not paying anything for it. I have a computer. I got a webcam. I got a couple old monitors that I've saved. I have another monitor that I saved. I got some old microphones I got from my dad. I'm putting this production together for nothing, and YouTube allows me to broadcast it to all of you millions of Bet the Beach fans. Thank you guys all for hopping in the chat here tonight. Love you guys. So you have to pay your own production costs, specifically when you're on YouTube. So that's when it's really clear. The AVP is paying 100% its production costs this year because it's on YouTube, and YouTube's not paying it. How much do you think ESPN Plus was paying the AVP for its production costs last year? If you ask me, I don't think anything. I think I saw Kent Steffes say on a bulletin board, and he gets as fiery as anybody on the bulletin boards there. I think he made the comment that AVP had to pay ESPN to carry their product. So I think Larry's insinuation here that because they were on ESPN last year, that ESPN was paying the production cost, I think in my mind it's totally bogus. I don't think there's any way ESPN was paying the lion's share, the majority. I'd be surprised if they were paying anything for that. But if you're talking about just the profitability of it, I think it's a zero-sum game last year, just like it's a zero-sum game this year. Now, all that said, you do want to make money on your television deal. That's the way a lot of these leagues make their money. And I think the AVP is in a position right now where that's not going to happen. I think what they need to do is they need to gain viewership. So that's how I responded to Larry. So I got sucked back in. I'll admit it. After those last two comments, that seemed a little snarky to me. I had to get my thoughts back out there one more time. So my response to Larry: YouTube has around 2.5 billion monthly active users. ESPN Plus has around 25 million subscribers. If the goal is to grow the game, then it would make sense to me to reduce production costs and get on the platform that has 100x the eyeballs. What I'm saying there basically is when we're talking about ESPN Plus versus YouTube, we're not even in the same league here as far as accessibility and number of people using the product. And that old school thought of because you're on ESPN, somebody's going to click through and stumble across your product and then stay there forever. Honestly, I think that's more applicable on YouTube today than it is on any of these, four-letter network, ESPN Plus. Where else do you want it? Fox Sports. I don't even know where you'd want it on. But to insinuate that nobody's going to see it when it's on YouTube, I strongly disagree with. And we'll get to it in a minute here. That sentiment seems to have been backed up by a couple of other people today on the internet. So Larry comes right back to me, and this is where I'm thinking, okay, maybe I don't want to go into this any further with my guy over here. Look at this is from Larry, 23 hours ago, just a few minutes later after my last comment. Quote, look at the numbers YouTube videos posted when that was the AVP's outlet in 2022 and get back to me. AVP lost lots of money after its production costs. You can even confirm that by running a calculation of the entire AVP's channel worth on YouTube Revenue Calculator. Huge boondoggle, Larry says. So here's the thing. He's not wrong. The AVP lost money producing its content on YouTube in 2022. I'm guessing they lost money last year producing their content on ESPN Plus. I don't think that was a big win for them either. And they will lose money again in 2024 producing it back on YouTube. I made the comment a little bit earlier there, reduce production costs. In this day and age, I think you can put a very, very high production content product out there without the old school production costs. Now, it's not going to be anything like this right here where I'm producing the entire thing by myself. I'm getting all your content. I'm doing all the audio. I'm doing all the visual. It's a lot more than that. I understand that. You got to get a truck. You got to get all kinds of things. I'm not stupid. But I think that what they can do is I think they can skinny down the production costs without alienating viewers, without compromising the heart of the product. Get those production costs down. Get your product on a platform that has, 2.5 billion monthly active users. There's 8 billion people in the world. We're talking about a quarter of the world has YouTube accessible to them on the phone, on their computer, on their television. And it's everywhere. It's on the television. It's on your computer. It's on your phone. Everywhere you go, you can pull up YouTube in a moment's notice. I think the idea that YouTube is a place where the casual fan isn't going to approach the product, I think those days are long gone, and I think that's just an antiquated way of looking at it. I do think that the AVP needs to start to turn around this losing money every year on television production and start, working into a system where they can start, breaking even and then working towards it. But I think the immediate goal needs to be grow the game. And I think growing the game requires you being on a channel that has 2.5 billion active monthly annual users, to be on a platform that has 2.5 billion monthly active users in YouTube. I think that's the place that you want to be with your product. You got to figure out a way to get sponsors. You got to figure out a way to get them new eyeballs. That's what you have to do. And then finally, Larry, a couple more comments. And at this point, I'm not getting into a big Twitter beef with my guy here. The 2022 season on YouTube exposed how tiny the AVP's audience was, and it's likely smaller now because of a 3-tournament tour in 2024. Sponsors, but more importantly, potential sponsors, could see for themselves how few cared to watch the AVP. And then this last one got me, but I'm leaving it alone. Why would any potential sponsor come aboard with the AVP when even its diehard fans pitch a hissy fit about buying a $9.99 subscription to ESPN Plus so that it can watch the product? Fair if you are a diehard beach volleyball fan and you're not willing to spend any money to watch the product. Personally, I'm willing to spend that $10, no problem. My interests, my issue, one, was the Manhattan Beach. When it was on ESPN Plus, I switched it to ESPN2, and then I had to get a second subscription in order to get ESPN2. That may have been different for other people. I get it. That was my own personal story. I'm willing to spend $10 a year for ESPN for AVP's product. I spend a lot more for AVP stuff because I'm a fan. But to judge people and to judge its core audience, for not be willing to watch, not willing to pay that money, I don't think that's a fair way to approach the thing. And I think, just to go back to what I said before, I think getting in front of that bigger audience, getting on a platform that has the biggest reach, I think that's the best way that you're going to help grow your game, amongst a lot of other things. And the last thing I'll say on this, just going to some announcements today, here earlier on AVP making their announcement about the streaming on YouTube on their social platforms.
Yeah, baby, that is right. It is time. We are right back in Huntington Beach.
So, just an awesome reel there by the AVP, and then also credit to the McKibben brothers for doing just a killer job on that. And you see the comments there right from the beginning. This is a hard edit. Gonna take that as a comment. You got my like right there. That is a compliment, and that is a hard edit. Nice job there by the McKibben brothers. And then you go into the comments. And again, I'm going to try to pick the ones that make my argument because it's my show. That's what I'm going to do. Thank you for streaming it on YouTube on behalf of other countries outside the U.S. YouTube, yes, thank God. YouTube, exclamation point. Yes, I forgive you for all the matches I missed out on last year. Yes, that's awesome. Now we can watch this in other countries. This is exactly what we need and want. Much excited, amazing. We're back. YouTube is back. LFG. People are excited, right? Live on YouTube, fire emoji. All right, YouTube, this is a win already. So love the YouTube coverage. Back to YouTube so Europe can watch too. YouTube equals awesome. This may be a generational thing too, although I am almost 40, so I'm probably on that cut line for liking and not liking YouTube, although Bet the Beach is on YouTube right there. Bet the Beach, YouTube. Subscribe, please. It may be a generational thing, not understanding the platform and the reach that YouTube has. If you're an older demographic, older generation, YouTube may not be as accessible as to some, but I do think that growing the game requires, being on an accessible platform for these cord cutters, the youth, and I think that's the right move. And finally, I'm going to go to one of the legends of the game, putting his comments on the transition or on the announcement, the AVP moving to YouTube for the 2024 Huntington Beach Open.
For the week, AVP is streaming the whole weekend, this weekend. What's cool is my boys, who are both teenagers that play on a club team together that I coach, they're obsessed with volleyball right now. They've got the bug, they've got the itch. They always want to pepper, they're all about it. They don't watch TV. They ask if they can watch YouTube. So instead of watching their favorite streamers, they're going to be streaming their favorite beach volleyball players, which for me is massive. Free.
So there it is. I mean, I couldn't say it better myself. I'm not surprised that Casey Patterson can say it a lot better than I could there. I think the youth are on YouTube, and the youth aren't on the television flipping through channels. And I think AVP getting on YouTube's a win. Do they need to figure out a way to start making money on their television production? Yeah, I think reducing costs, I think, would be a good step there. And then growing the game, getting the more eyeballs, and then using those sponsor dollars to help pay for your broadcast. So, No beef from me, Larry P. Hamill, the freelance journalist for Volleyball Mag. I think we just have a difference of opinion. I'm excited it's on YouTube. The people in the comments also seem to be doing that. And like I said, I'm taking the ones that make my point, and I'm ignoring the ones that don't. So if you want to, have your own Larry P. Hamill live and make your point, I think as you did on Twitter last night, no beef with me at all. Anyways, not a time to be upset, a time to be happy. Huntington Beach starts here in just about 16 hours. Qualifiers starting from Huntington Beach, California. That'll do it for me here today. Now, I will say this. Depending on how the weekend shakes out, if we got some good opportunities, we got multiple courts going on at any point, we might have an impromptu Bet the Beach live watch-along. So stay tuned on our socials. As I said, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Twitter, back to back. And we'll get some announcement if we're gonna spin up a quick watch along, because one thing I was thinking about earlier, I love watching beach volleyball. I'll be out at the Tiki Bar this weekend with both screens on, watching on YouTube. Thank you, AVP. We love you. One thing for me is I love watching sports with other people, and I don't have a lot of people up here in the Northeast that are big AVP, beach volleyball fans. So I would like to create a situation where we can do some watch-alongs. You can hop on with me on YouTube. I can, spin you up on Zoom. I can get you in the comments there, and we can, talk beach volley as we watch beach volley. I think that's something a direction I'd like to go at some point here with Bet the Beach Live. Anyways, that'll do it for me. AVP Huntington starts tomorrow. Main draw starts Friday at noon. And we will talk to you next Wednesday, Bet the Beach Live, 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, right here on, guess what, YouTube. See you guys.